For more than 2 decades, we've been educating our listeners about financial topics that are most important to you. Do you have enough money to retire? How will you keep from running out of money? What's your plan for managing market risk? What about taxes, inflation, and healthcare? Each week, we talk with an advisor at Lucia Capital Group about these issues and more. This is Managing Your Financial Future.
Now, welcome back to the podcast. Johnny Dean, your podcast host, ready, willing, and able, tanned, rested, and ready for another episode of Managing Your Financial Future. Happy to be here today once again. I will introduce immediately my partner here and podcasting partner. You're the PP, Professor Plum, PP.
Thank you.
Podcasting partner, PP. You are Professor Rick Plum, certified financial planner professional and accredited wealth management advisor. You're not really a professor.
No, I'm not.
Although
it was a nickname.
You have talked in front of groups similar to college audiences and the like.
And I do teach a lot of young advisors and help out old advisors, older. I shouldn't say older, more tenured advisors, shall we say?
Yeah, that's right. The ones with a little bit of gray hair, which is always nice. Anyway, it is Managing Your Financial Future, and so for the last couple of episodes, this has been so much fun. Now, if you're listening to these in order, the last 2 episodes we did, we took some of these bucket strategy questions, answered them, some of the more basic ones, and the next one, some of the more, I guess, advanced questions, detailed questions. And I had said toward the end of the last episode, I said, well, I don't know if people, if you're interested in this, if you find it fun as I found it fun and Professor did, just let us know. And if not, we can do something else. And now the episode that we did, the first bucket strategy episode, has only been out for like a day, but all positive so far. Not a single negative.
That's very nice.
Which is good.
I like that.
That is good. So it's only been a day and a half. I'll give people another week to catch up. But so here's what I want to do now. Now we've covered the bucket strategy pretty well, but with the bucket strategy in the background, I wanted to cover with you today, Professor Plum, the idea of what they call in the business protected income. Some call it guaranteed income. Some call it annuitized income. Some call it pensionized income. But I want to cover these. What I did was, similar to the bucket strategy questions, I took a bunch of these questions, and some of these are going back many years. 10, 11, 12 years. But as I'm reading some of these questions that we used to get on our radio show, when we did emails and answered them immediately on the radio show, I've found that the questions that people asked back then are the same questions people are asking, or at least should be asking now. And it's not just, I don't want people to get the idea that it's always, hey, everybody should have, some form of protected income, annuitized income. On the other hand, I don't want the opposite, which is nobody should have it. And for whatever reason, at least half the time when you're out there looking, it's either somebody telling you should always have it, they're the greatest thing, it's the greatest thing in the world, or you should never have it, which seems irresponsible to me, especially for people who could benefit from it. So I want to cover both sides here. And I'm going to start with just a couple of basic questions on this, and I'm going to have you knock these down, Professor Plum, in the time that we have. And so we won't spend a ton of time on each one, but let's get started with this. So one of the questions that came many times was, when we talk about protected income, what do we mean, Professor Plum? What do we mean by protected income?
Well, protected income is a cash flow that is designed to last for as long as you do, maybe as long as you and or another individual spouse, partner will be alive, and that you cannot mess it up, and the market cannot mess it up. You can't change it. You can't screw it up, and the market can't change it, can't screw it up. So it's, Social Security is a form of protected income. A pension from an employer that's covered by the PBGC, the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, that is a form of protected income. When you sign up and start receiving a pension, you get X amount of dollars per month, sometimes with, sometimes without a COLA going forward, but you get that dollar amount per month, every month going forward, and it's guaranteed by some backing source other than you, other than the market. Social Security is guaranteed by the U.S. government, supposedly. So it's a matter of, once you sign up for it, you start receiving it, and you get that same amount every year, little COLA here and there, and the market has no impact, whether the market's high or low, whether interest rates are high or low. that doesn't affect the monthly check. You get it regardless.
That's what
and your ability to pick, choose, have good timing, bad timing, invest wisely, not invest wisely, has nothing to do with this income. It's just going to happen.
And that's where the word protected comes from. In other words, it's protected from investor behavior, which, people sometimes do the wrong things, and market behavior, which you have no control over. So it's kind of a nice thing to have.
It can be.
Well,
for the right people.
It can be. And honestly, when you think about it, even people with, $15 million who only spend $100,000 a year, people with a ton of money.
That person yet.
No, but let's exaggerate for effect. Even those people have a form of protected income. It may not be guaranteed by anything, but if you're only spending $100,000 a year, that's kind of your protection. I don't think you're going to run out at that rate. Okay. So, but the idea of having an income or cash flow, I guess, that you can't mess up can be a benefit to certain people. Now, when we talk about things like this, you mentioned pensions guaranteed by the PBGC. Certainly that's one. Social Security, as you said, is another one. Another common form is the form of annuities. Now,
certain types of annuities, yes.
Certain types of annuities.
I mean, when you say the word annuities, some people group them all together and think there's only there's one investment out there. An annuity is the same thing for everybody. No, it's not. There are a lot of different types of annuities. So what we're talking about here are annuities that create a stream of payments, a guaranteed stream of payments. Not all annuities are designed to do that. Some are, and most of the annuities sold today, well, many of them sold today, are deferred annuities where you're buying into something to give you a return over the next X number of years, but you're not taking any income from it. Mm-hmm. What we're talking about here was protected income. That should give you the hint. Are a contract that gives you a guaranteed income, cash flow, distribution, payout for your life, or maybe your life and somebody else's.
Yeah, and the idea, just again zooming out, the idea is to have a cash flow that is not going to be threatened by anything that's either within your control or without your control. And for many people, that is it's helpful not just to have that, but to give them some kind of assurance. I want to be careful and be compliant here. I don't want to use certain terms, but well,
in many cases, the protected income purchase is a purchase for the security, the feeling, the knowledge that every month some amount of money is coming in the door, so that you have that to cover your bills. And what we see is when you have the appropriate amount of protected income from whatever source, you tend to be a better investor, and you tend not to be quite as reactionary to the market. So when the markets do what they've done at the beginning of this year, what they've done at times, where they go down and they come back, and they go down and they come back, and sometimes they go down for a lot longer. People that have income coming in from another source don't worry about, the market's down right now, I need to sell to save what I've got before I go broke. They know they're not going to go broke because they got money coming in to cover their needs. So purchasing a cash flow annuity is less about trying to get the greatest rate of return in the world and more about appeasing yourself, the way you feel about how things are going. When you have cash coming in, you're a little more comfortable with what's going on.
Yeah.
And study after study have shown that even though if you were to purchase a protected income, assuming you needed it in the first place, the people that do that tend to have a better legacy, not because the annuity is the greatest rate of return in the world, but because they tend to be a better investor with the rest of their assets, and therefore they don't sell out just when the market's going down. Just because the market's going down, they tend to hold on longer and allow it to recover, and they have more money.
Yeah. Now, let me get to a couple more of these questions. These are great points you're bringing up, Professor Plum. And lest you think that we're sitting here saying that everybody should have it, I think we've made it clear we are not saying that. I'm going to get into some of the skeptical questions we've gotten about protected income, specifically annuities. And again, skeptical questions are what you should be asking, because that will help determine, the answer may help you determine whether you need it or not. Let me get into just one or two very quickly questions about things like annuities. Just jumping ahead here, what are the tax implications of different types of annuities, and how should that influence their placement in a portfolio? Now, that's kind of a wonky question a little bit, but when you receive something like an annuity payment from an insurance company, pensions, of course, are fully taxable at ordinary income rates. It's income to you. Social Security is partially taxable, maybe, depending on your other income that you have.
And depending on what Congress does.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Wouldn't that be... I'm sorry. I've just got lost in my reverie of tax-free Social Security. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yes, depending on what they do. Right now, as we speak, the Social Security is partially taxable. In fact, in some cases, mostly taxable, but not all. So talk, if you would, for just a moment about we'll stick with annuities here. What are the tax implications of annuities? How are they taxed?
Well, the tax implication depends on where the money is that is being used to purchase the annuity. Is the annuity being purchased inside of an IRA? Well, if it is, then the IRA rules control. So nothing happens while the money is in the IRA, but when the money is distributed out and paid to your bank account or to you personally, then it is a taxable event, just like any other IRA distribution, because it is an IRA distribution. Now, if you buy this if you buy these types of contracts with personal money, what they call non-qualified annuities, where it's not sheltered in any way by an IRA or some other account taxation treatment, it's just the annuity treatment, then it depends on what kind of annuity you're purchasing. And there's basically two types of contracts. There is a deferred annuity, and then there is an immediate annuity. A deferred annuity is one where any distribution that comes out of the contract will be earnings first. So to the extent that I have any deferred earnings, that's the money that's coming out first. And I don't get to my money, the money I put into this with my after-tax dollars, until I've burned through all the tax-deferred money. And so if I put $100,000 into a contract today and I do not take a payment for a year, and at the end of the year, the contract is worth $105,000, and then I start taking money out of it, in that case, the first $5,000 that comes out is taxable. And it's not until I start dipping into my original 100 that I start getting my own money back, technically. And that doesn't have any taxation to it because I've already paid tax on that money. And they go through that calculation every year. So if I had 100 and it grew to 105, and then I took out, say $7,000. Well, the first 5 of that is taxable, 2 of it's not. That drops my account balance from 105 down to 98. Next year, they look at it and they say, okay, it grew to 103 and you did the same thing. I'm going to have a similar split because I had some earnings that year. So it's hard to determine what your taxable event's going to be each year because it's all based on whatever the earnings are. Maybe one year, depending upon what kind of contract I had very good earnings, then the entire payment's taxable. And maybe another year I had no earnings. None of the payment would be taxable. So it gets a little wonky when you have that particular issue. The majority of systematic withdrawal, deferred, or what they call lifetime income payments are coming from that type of contract. The cash value is still there. It's still potentially earning something, but you're also taking distributions from the cash value. The distributions of your own money is not taxable. It gets a little carried away.
It's called LIFO, last in, first out, LIFO. Now,
the other type of contract is one where it's what they call annuitized. And they basically take the cash value and they say, okay, we're going to take the cash value and we're going to promise you a payment of Y amount of money for the rest of your life or whatever the guaranteed period is, usually your life or your life and somebody else. And we're going to spread whatever taxation is in this contract or expected to be in this contract. We're going to spread it out over the expected life expectancy. So you'll have a payment of Y, and in every payment, there's going to be a specific portion of it that's going to be taxable and a specific portion that's not taxable until you've used up all your own money. Now, once you've used up all your money, if you live to be 125, you will have used up all your money, and then the payment becomes 100% taxable because all you're getting is the insurance company's money. That is a goal. That would be a good goal. So the idea is, understand, now most contracts are not annuitized, and so it's hard to know what the tax is. But that's also one of the reasons, not the only reason, that I like using these kinds of contracts if I'm going to have them inside an IRA. because now I know exactly what the tax treatment is. I'm getting this payment, and I'm also going to satisfy my required minimum distribution. And in many cases, I'm going to have a bigger distribution from that contract than the RMD for that contract, which can help me satisfy the required minimum distribution from other IRA accounts I might have. So it comes in my favor. I've got to take a required minimum distribution anyway. If I'm going to have something grow in my overall portfolio, I'd rather it be my personal account than my IRA. And so it makes sense to put these kinds of contracts, in my opinion, in the IRA. Ease of taxation, you know exactly what it is. Ease of RMD maintenance, because you know exactly what's going on. I'd rather have the growth in my personal account to get long-term capital gains, a step up in basis, and all the kinds of things we get there. So it just makes sense. In my world, I would rather see it in an IRA than in a personal account.
Okay, so and that's a good strategy point right there. You mentioned that the contract generally has earnings, and you may dip into some of your own money. A couple of questions may come to mind very quickly before I get to some of these others, and I don't want to spend too much time on any of this, but. What happens if you still have some? Here are two questions we get. One is, what happens if you die and there's still some of your own cash value left? Number one. Or number two, how often do people spend all of their own money, live long enough where all of their money is gone, and they're only living on insurance company? Answer the first one first, if you would, please.
The first one, which was
what happens if there's still
in a typical lifetime income contract where there's a cash value it's invested either in the market or it's an investment in index type of accounts, something of that nature. If there's cash value left over, that cash value goes to your heirs. So if I started with $100,000 and over the years I've been taking money out every year on a systematic withdrawal, guaranteed for as long as I live, but unfortunately I didn't live as long as I thought I was going to. The unfortunate Mack truck or something happens, life happens, or the opposite of that happens.
Yes.
And there's money left over. I didn't get to it. Whatever that is, it goes to the heirs. Now, there are some contracts, one of the more popular ones out there, that actually has a death benefit. So if you started with $100,000 and you started taking, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year, whatever the contract allowed, and you didn't, there's still $1. If there's at least $1 in the contract when you die, your heirs get back the death benefit, which is $100,000 in that example, my original investment. So there are different things. Now, that has a little bit more in fees.
Well, there's a premium you're kind of paying for that. It's a type of insurance policy. So
and so it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and there are so many of these. There are too many to even mention different types of benefits that you can. It all depends on your need. Now, how often do you see where people go through their entire money and now they're just living on the insurance company's dime?
Well, we're getting to the point that these types of contracts came out about the turn of the century, which sounds like so long ago, but 20, 25 years ago. But they really didn't really gain until mid 2008 or right after 2008, things of that nature. And so a lot of them haven't had the time yet to burn through all the individual's money yet, although we have seen a few. And there are, if you live long enough, you're going to burn through all your own, all the earnings that it can be doing on an annual basis, because they're probably going to earn 4 or 5%, and you're going to be taking 7 or 8%. That's going to whittle things away. And there's a fee for the rider, and they're the guarantee. So the insurance company, will pay you for the rest of your life, even after the cash is all gone. Mm-hmm. But we have seen it in rare instances where the money goes, there's no cash left. And people are now just living on the insurance company's money for the rest of their life. We hope they live a long time and stick it to the insurance company like that.
And that's the whole point. It gives
that's the goal.
That is the goal. Because ultimately, if you look at an internal rate of return, that just gives you a little bit, better IRR. So
right. Now, and these are complicated and they're confusing because unfortunately they're sold with they're sold in a way to hopefully make you not think you're hearing what you're thinking, or you're hearing something different than what you're actually hearing. They talk about 8% payouts, 8.5%, 7.5% payouts. No. They talk about these payouts like they were a rate of return. That is not the case. If I'm getting an 8% payout on a contract, that is not an 8% rate of return. You give me $100,000 and I give you $8,000 a year, and 12 years from now, I ask you, what was your rate of return? Well, I gave you it must have been an 8% rate of return. No, that's only an 8% rate of return if I give you back your 100,000th at the end of the time. If I give you back nothing after the 12 years, you basically got a 0% rate of return. You just got your own money back. So it's a matter of understanding what's actually happening. And I mentioned earlier, these are not purchased for the outrageously good rates of return they're going to achieve. They're purchased of knowing that you have a check or being deposited into your account at the same amount each month, at the same date, roughly each month, that you don't have to worry about where the money's coming from.
Yeah, and that is based on the claims paying ability of the issuer, which is the insurance company. So you got to keep that in mind. But either way, this is why you're buying it. You're not buying, as you said, for a rate of return. If you happen to live a long time and you wind up with a really good rate of return, hey, that's fine. But you're not promising that. You are bringing up so many good points. I feel like I should do 3 episodes on this, because that whole discussion of rate of return and how much you're paying, cash flow, versus actual rate of return is so important. But we may have to address that on another episode. But I forgot about that, and that's such a great point. Let me throw in a few other questions here. I mean, we're champing at the bit to get so many good points people are bringing up.
I'm not saying that these are good or these are bad.
Right.
This is not a never or an always do this. It is a tool to be used in a strategy for a specific individual. Many people will want some degree of this type of contract. Others won't need any. I have a couple friends, retired firefighters, that have very nice pensions, and they've got more money from pensions than they spend in any given year. They don't need any more guaranteed income. They're fine. They can be as aggressive or non-aggressive on their investments as they want, because it's not going to affect their ability to make, to live.
Yeah, there's no reason to purchase something that you don't need. And this goes back to the whole point, Professor Plum, of this being a tool. We've said this many times. Think of a tool. Okay, here's one, jackhammer. Now, how many people really need a jackhammer? Probably not that many. Does this mean
Once in a while, I've used a jackhammer, but that doesn't mean I want to have one sitting in my garage all the time. I'm going to rent it for that.
Well, okay. Well, that's true. Okay, but a jackhammer, that's not something that the average person is probably going to need. I just don't think so. But does that mean a jackhammer is bad? No, because there are people, there are businesses that need that.
There are jobs that they are well suited for.
Yes, if you're trying to, dig up concrete, it's probably a very good thing. If you're trying to pound a nail into the wall, I don't think you're going to want to use it. So
not if you want the wall still standing.
Well, that's just it. It's going to cause more damage, and you've wasted your money. So this is how we look at things like annuities. They're not good or bad. They are just another tool. I want, in the time we have left here, we only have maybe 7 or 8 minutes left. But I want to address some of these skeptics' questions, if we should, here. And there's a bunch, and people should be asking these questions. Let's see. Here's one right off the bat that we've gotten. Aren't annuities just expensive insurance products that benefit the insurance company more than the investor?
In some cases, that is a definite yes. They are expensive insurance products that only benefit if they're not used appropriately. On the other side, if they're solving a need, and in many cases, it's all a matter of, there are fees, but then what's the fee on a CD? If I can get a treasury for 4 and a CD for 3.5, my fee is, 0.5% in that. So it depends on what we're looking at and how we're doing. But if you're using them for the appropriate purpose and you get the results that you're looking for, then they're not overpriced or overexpensive. Now, I'm going to say that on general, because you can probably find one that is really badly priced, and we don't want to use those. So fees are an issue you always want to look at. Like I talked about that one that had the death benefit before. It has a fee in it. But for the people that have been using it, they love it, and they don't think it's too expensive at all, because and I've seen it come a couple of times where the person passed away and the heir got all their money back, and it was like that was the best money spent ever for them. So is insurance, you could say that about any insurance policy. They're always expensive, and insurance companies have priced it out that insurance companies are not losing money on these. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have any insurance. If that were the case, nobody would ever buy any life insurance except for people that were in ill health and they can't get it in the first place. So, yeah, they do have a fee to them. But in many cases, when they're used as part of a strategy where it's an appropriate investment, appropriate tool to be used, the fee is worth what you're getting from it.
That's it. And if the annuity you purchased wound up just being an expensive insurance product, benefiting the company more than you, then you should not have purchased one. It was not the right recommendation, and you shouldn't do it. Another question here. Why would I give up access to my money just for a guaranteed paycheck? Now,
well, that depends on how much you value a guaranteed paycheck.
Well,
Some people do not value that guaranteed paycheck, and therefore they don't see or want the value that could potentially come from that guaranteed paycheck. Other people see the value and are willing to pay for that value so that they can, not worry about what the markets are doing, not worry about making the bill payment next month, every year. They know exactly what's going on, and having that, you may not like that contract.
We'll see if they not like that. We'll see if they leave word. If they let us say that. I don't know. We'll find out.
Some people like that idea. So it is a value issue. Am I getting value, something that I value from what I'm doing here? If you don't want the value from it, if it's not a valuable issue to you, don't buy it. Don't do it.
Great advice. Another question we've gotten on this. Protected income, meaning annuity, sounds like settling for lower returns. Why lock in something that's just safe?
Well, that's the same answer before. What all the studies that we've seen that have been around long enough, where they've studied people that have had these types of contracts long enough, show that even though this particular area may not be the 20, 30, 40, 50% rates of return that people love to hear about or talk about, in the markets, because you have that income, because you don't have to worry about what the market's doing, that typically shows that you have a better legacy, meaning more money left over when you're gone for your heirs, with these types of investments for those who need them in the first place, because they don't become reactionary to the market. They don't sell when the market's down. They get a better rate of return on the rest of their portfolio. And so by getting a better rate of return on the rest of their portfolio, it offsets the moderate rate of return, or whatever you want to call the rate of return on this amount of your portfolio. This is also why we don't put 100% of somebody's assets into one of these kinds of contracts. Mm-hmm. First off, the regulators would never allow it. And the second thing is, it's not appropriate. It's not the right thing to do. Or that should be actually the other way around. It's not appropriate, and the regulators won't let us do it. But it's a matter of you putting 20%, 25% maybe in one of these areas. So you may be getting a little less rate of return that you could have otherwise gotten, but not for sure, because you're getting that guaranteed income. But rather than 75% of your portfolio, you're doing better because you're not as reactionary. You're not as emotional. You're not as stupid.
Hey, you could say that too. I don't think they're going to care about that.
We'll see.
Now, the last one here that because we're just about out of time for this episode. I may have to do more of this. We'll see. Why would I need protected income if I already have Social Security and a solid investment portfolio?
Well, the solid investment portfolio will push off the side because it can't create guaranteed income. You can't use the G word with the investment portfolio unless you add something that guarantees it from some other source, like the insurance company. And depending upon how much Social Security you have, you may not need any other thing. I know some people who worked and then they had they don't have any debt going into retirement. They both worked and have very good Social Securities. Between the two of them, they're getting like $7,000 or $8,000 a month from Social Security, and their monthly bills. I mean, when you look at the property taxes, insurance, basic food, and gas, and electric, things like that, it's like $3,000 or $4,000. They don't need lifetime income annuity. Their Social Security is more than enough guaranteed protected income that they don't need to add more to their portfolio. On the other hand, I know people who are still carrying mortgages into retirement, have higher fixed expenses, have higher needs than that, and their Social Security is only around $2,000 or $3,000 a month combined for whatever reason. They were self-employed, they kept their incomes low, at least on paper. They just don't have big Social Securities, and they started at 62, so they've got $4,000 of Social Security, but their fixed expenses every month are like $5,000 or $6,000 a month.
Yeah,
they may want to add this to give them that. They know they have the basic monthly nut covered.
I wanted to throw one more in here because this is kind of relates to buckets, which isn't the market, a stock market, a better long-term income solution than an annuity? Now, and I know the answer to that.
Whoa. That's a misnomer in there.
Yeah.
The market is a better long-term growth opportunity than these types of annuities. It is not an income solution. The market is not an ongoing income solution. It's too volatile, it's too variable, and you have a high chance of going broke if you try to take a systematic withdrawal from a portfolio that has any volatility to it. So this is not the market. Yes, over the next 30 years, the market will probably significantly outpace what you could have earned from one of these types of annuities. But we're not using them for the same thing. That's like using a hammer to
paint the wall,
a ditch. You're trying to dig a ditch with the claws on a hammer. Yeah, it'll eventually work, but it's not going to work very well. It's not a portfolio like that is not an income portfolio. That's a growth portfolio. The protected income should give you the clue right there. Is an income portfolio designed to give you guaranteed income for the rest of your life, not grow by leaps and bounds and make your kids richer than you are. It's the wrong tool. You're dealing with two different things.
And as I go through these here, as we wrap this up, the skeptical questions, as I said, you should be asking these questions. We're not shooting down these questions. We're just addressing them because they're very good. And if the answer is a certain way, you should not have protected income. If the answer is the other way, you should perhaps consider it. But these are questions you should be answering. And really, Professor Plum, when I hear these skeptical type questions, it seems to me that if these bad outcomes happen, as these people are suggesting, then, as I said, you had the wrong recommendation. That person was recommended something they shouldn't have had. And I think that's what it comes down to. You'd probably
agree. Unfortunately, part of the bad name and part of the bad rep that annuities get is because they have been missold, heavily missold in the past. How many times when we were doing our daily radio show did we get somebody call in and ask about an annuity with that 8% guarantee? And no, it wasn't an 8% guarantee. It was a roll-up of an income base, which wasn't a guarantee, and it wasn't a rate of return. But it was sold inappropriately, and unfortunately, because of that, it was bought inappropriately. It shouldn't have been bought for that reason because it was not doing what it's supposed to do. So you need to work with somebody who actually understands how these work. You need to understand who has access to a lot of different ones, so they can. There are times when a guaranteed payout of 5 or 6 is better than a guaranteed payout of 7 or 8, depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. One may have a better escalator than the other. One may have that death benefit that I talked about than the other. So it depends on what's going on. One may be a joint life, maybe a single life. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in these things. They sound like they're so simple, and in many respects they are, but they're not.
And it's important what it is you're being recommended. And if you're going to consider one, it's important that you know what it is you're buying. And this is where
it's important to know how it fits into your specific strategy for accomplishing the goals you're trying to achieve.
Yes. And if it doesn't do that, you shouldn't consider any of this stuff. Professor, unfortunately, we're out of time. I may want to deal with some more of this stuff next week because there's still a whole bunch of questions. You brought up that income base, which, it sounds wonky, and I suppose it is. But, it's something we used to explain on our show quite a bit when we were, doing a 3-hour radio show. Maybe we can try to explain some of that in a future podcast. I'll have to evaluate that because people need to know this stuff. But I don't want to get into it so that it's so complicated, and I don't want to turn people off in that regard. But it's out there, and people are hungry for some type of guaranteed income these days. So I think it's important to know. If you'd like to learn more about this stuff and you want to talk to a Lucia Capital Group advisor, because Professor Plum and the other advisors deal with this all the time, is it right for you? Maybe, maybe not. Does it fit with your goals? Maybe, maybe not. It's a good idea to talk to them. 800-644-1150, the number at Lucia Capital Group, 800-644-1150. 50. Go online at luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com. You can find more information up there as well. Maybe more than you asked for. But if you'd like to do that, you can certainly go to luciacap.com and find out more about these types of products. It's important to at least learn. Subscribe to this podcast. I almost forgot. Of course, subscribe to this podcast. Apple Podcasts or Spotify, either one. You can download the episodes and listen to them every single week. Listen 2 or 3 times. I kind of like seeing those numbers go up. You know, I'll hit refresh. I say, oh, look, 100 more. That's great. That's great. So it just makes us feel good. But it also makes us know that you folks are interested in this. And even though we don't take a lot of emails on the show because of the nature of it, being 3-4 week lag time, please, you can email us there at luciacap.com. If you have questions about this stuff, Professor Plum will read them, and we'll try to address some of them maybe on a future program. So, Rick, I thank you for this. I could take any one of the things. I could take any one of these things that you've said and turn them into probably a good 20 or 30 minutes. I won't do that, but I find it fascinating. And I think your answers are not only spot on, but it shows the experience that you've had dealing with people and understanding what their goals are and sticking with those goals, not recommending product. It's strategy first. I think you'd agree.
Yes, very much. It's all about the strategy. It's all about understanding why you're doing it. It's the ability to identify why you bought a particular investment, and that way you know how to manage and look at it and see it and evaluate whether it's doing its job for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself, which is why I had Professor Plum say it. Rick, thank you so much. Professor Rick Plum, certified financial planner, professional, and accredited wealth management advisor. For my good friend, Professor Plum, I'm your podcast host, Johnny Dean. Thanks for listening to Managing Your Financial Future. We will, as always, talk to you again next week. The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. This material was gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. Information on investment products is for informational purposes only and does not constitute an investment recommendation or a solicitation to buy or sell the investment products described herein. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice. There's no guarantee that any investment strategy will meet its stated objective. All investments involve risk, including potential loss of principal. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There's no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. Annuities are long-term investment products designed for retirement purposes. Guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuer, subject to their terms and conditions. Early withdrawals may be subject to surrender penalties and, if taken prior to age 59.5, may be subject to an additional 10% federal tax. Annuities are not FDIC insured. Certain terms and conditions apply, so please read insurance company materials carefully. Before investing, carefully consider a variable annuities investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus which contains this and other information, call your financial advisor. Read the prospectus carefully before investing. Variable annuities with guarantees are available through optional riders and additional cost. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Treasury securities are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government but are subject to inflation risk. CDs are FDIC insured up to $250,000 per depositor per insured bank for each account ownership category. The information provided is based on current laws which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. Rick Plum is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. LPL Financial Insurance License Number 0518721. LPLIA Insurance License Number 0B91442.